Hello. There's a lot of you there. Welcome. As your first speaker today, I decided to talk about my initial interpretation of the idea of communication beyond words. So it's a bit of a simple and banal approach, but I think it's very worthwhile listening to, especially to start off all the fellow speakers and you guys as the audience who's listening. On and on I go, but what am I talking about? Today I'm talking about the way in which we communicate. What I mean is that I think that the way in which we present ourselves during an interaction, or we present the things we are saying during an interaction, are a lot more impactful than what we are actually saying. And the key to any successful communication is to get your message across, with or without words. So today my goal is to convince you that being in control of your body language, facial expressions, eye contact, and vocal tone is essential to any successful communication to get your message across as you intend for it to be understood. So, I want to acknowledge that communication beyond words can refer to many different things like art, music, film, etc. But today I'm here to talk to you about the way you engage with people when you are talking to them or you're being talked to. Let me elaborate. First off, body language. As most of you will probably know, this refers to the way you move your body as you're communicating with someone. And that sounds like a very simple idea and something you're probably very aware of. Maybe just now you fixed your posture or you moved your arms around a little. But if I told you that I'm here to talk to you about body language today, versus I'm here to talk to you about body language today, raise your hand if you found me a bit more reliable talking about it the second time around. Okay, I'm glad to see some hands, thank you. What I'm trying to say is the way in which you position yourself when you're talking to people can make you seem confident and reliable, but it can also make you seem unsure. And if you seem unsure in what you're talking about, why would anybody give you the time of day? Because they might even know more than you about it. But in the way I'm presenting myself right now, taking up space on this big stage in front of this, 200-300 person audience, I'm getting your attention by opening myself up, using my arms to bring attention to me, and trying to make you listen to me. It all comes down to reading the situation, though. There's certain scenarios in which you might want to take a more passive role and sit smaller or something, like all of you are doing right now, because as I'm hoping you're listening to me. If I'm talking to a teacher and they're telling me how I failed a test, I'll definitely be sitting a lot smaller, because I'll be disappointed in myself and letting them know that I'm listening to them and I'm not taking up all the space and being overly confident. But in a situation like this, as I already said, you want to take up space and grab people's attention. You also want to be in control of what your face is doing, which brings me to my next point of facial expressions. What? Well, I know that whenever I talk to people, or at least before I worked on this talk, I never really considered what my face was doing while I talked to them. But right now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm trying very hard to maintain, a small smile, but also a serious face, so you find me reliable, confident, but also friendly enough that I give off a good impression. If somebody's telling you bad news, you might frown with them. If they're telling you a joke, like our MCs did at the start, you might smile or laugh. And the reason you do this is to show engagement in what they're saying. You are reacting to what you are being told in a way that suits the conversation. Or if you're the one delivering the message, you're delivering it in a way that exaggerates what you're saying. If I was laughing the whole time I was giving this speech, I don't think you would take me as seriously. And if I was crying, you might tell me to get off the stage. But as I'm trying to right now, I'm showing that I'm engaged in what I'm talking about, because I'm showing that with my face, and also because I'm looking around at all of you. This is the part of my talk that made me reflect on the way I communicate with others the most. Because eye contact is really intimidating. It's something I've been very well aware of since a young age, because my dad, who's in the audience, has made it something I always had to think about when I talk to someone, especially someone who I have to show great respect to. But I think it's something that you should consider in any circumstance, even as an audience member. Because when you're talking to someone, looking them in the eye lets them know that you are solely focusing on them and what they're saying. And as the speaker, you're telling them that you care about what they think about what you're saying, and that you care that they're listening to you. Like I mentioned, eye contact can be pretty intimidating, and I don't think you want to maintain it the entire time you're talking to someone, because then both of you will be left feeling pretty uneasy. But I think that if you think of eye contact as looking at any old other thing, like I'm looking at that light, or now I'm looking you right there in the eyes, it makes it a lot less intimidating and easier to do. And I think it's a great way of showing confidence, reliability, and engagement. Now, to stray a bit away from the physical, I want to talk about vocal tone when you're talking to people. As you may or may not have noticed, as I'm giving this speech, I'm speaking pretty loudly even though I have a microphone. I'm trying to keep a pretty steady pace, but maybe enunciating some words more than others. I'm trying to speak clearly so you all understand me. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want you to know that I'm speaking steady because I know what I'm talking about, and I can take my time because I'm worth being listened to. I'm also enunciating and trying to pronounce all my words clearly so you understand me. If I was telling a joke, as again our MCs did at the start, their voice went a bit higher and they giggled while they were saying it, so you as the audience could infer that you were supposed to laugh as well and find that funny. If I was, again, crying while I gave this talk, maybe a few of you would frown or cry with me, depending on how much empathy you have for me. But, okay, I've listed all these things, and I kind of haven't told you how and when you're supposed to do all these things. And the bad news of this talk is there is no step-by-step manual I can give you. But I think that talking about it, especially at the start of an event where we're going to have 9 other lovely speakers and our MCs talking, I think these are all things that are very important to be aware of as you're communicating with people. The reason for this is because the main part of any interaction is how the other person interprets your message, and that is greatly influenced by how you present it to them. Like I said, if I'd been standing like this the whole time and talking very sarcastically, you'd get a very different impression of how I feel about what I'm saying during this talk, and that would make you feel differently about it as well. I'm trying to present myself in a way that makes you interpret my message the way I want it to be interpreted, because that helps increase understanding. And to me, like I mentioned, that is the sole point of any communication. Because there's nothing worse than talking to someone and trying to explain something, but them getting a completely different idea, because then you're just left with 2 confused and frustrated people. So, I hope that as we progress through this night, as the speakers and as the audience, you guys take some of these things into consideration as you take a passive or active role in communication. Thank you.